Hello everyone. Today's installment for essay review for the midterm is Napoleon. And you can see the quote in the picture here, "You must not fight too often with one enemy, or you will teach all your art of war." So Napoleon's rise to power in France is largely based on his military prowess. But before we get to that, who is this Napoleon person? First of all, he was born on the island of Corsica. This was an island in the Mediterranean Sea that was later taken over by France. And while much of European society at this time was based on the fact that if you were born wealthy, you remained wealthy, and it was difficult to rise in social class, Napoleon was not from a wealthy family. But he did move to mainland France and did graduate from a French military academy. So all of his background is based on military training. Now, the French Revolution, which began in 1789, Napoleon is not involved in this at the very beginning. I think that's important to note. And he was actually back on the island of Corsica during the very early years. And we'll talk about the causes of that war, of that revolution, momentarily. However, he did support early on the group called the Jacobins, who were the more pro-democracy group of the revolution. He will return back to France in 1793, and that's where his rise to power will begin. But before we can get to that, let's just make sure you know what the cause of the French Revolution are, and I'm doing this in a very abbreviated way. Politically, France was divided up into three estates. The first estate was called the nobility, and the second estate was the clergy. Now, everyone else, all the commoners, were in the third estate. But what's interesting is that the first estate made up about 1% of the population, as did the second estate. The third estate was as large as 97%. Yet when they were voting, each estate received one vote. So the third estate always got outnumbered. And only the third estate was required to pay taxes. So this is really, I think, the root and the foundation of the French Revolution. Also, I'm sure your teacher focused on the Enlightenment and the idea that if there are unjust rulers, and this time being Louis XVI, that you should overthrow them. So there will be a coup d'etat that will lead eventually to Louis XVI's execution. But this essay is more about preparing for Napoleon. So, what will happen? When the revolution turned violent during what was called the Reign of Terror, there was a man, Robespierre, who was responsible for this. He also had a brother. And Napoleon was definitely associated with those two people. So after Robespierre was executed, briefly, Napoleon was placed under house arrest. However, he was later promoted to be a leading general who was in charge of preventing the royalty from coming back to power. So Napoleon really earned his rank through that measure. So now his first act as unofficial leader is a defeat of Austria. And this kind of sets the tone. Napoleon really wants to invade and attack as many countries as possible, although he held off invading England for a while. He did invade Egypt, and he also invaded present-day Syria. Syria, I hope you all know, in the news very much today. So by 1799, Napoleon is the leading political figure in France. And there was a small time where the Directory, which is maybe a group of 3 or 5 people, led France. But Napoleon is going to take over and overthrow this Directory. So by 1799, that is when he is the leader. So what does he do as the leader of France? Well, he does restore order. For 10 years, France was in chaos, in turmoil during the revolution, the moderate stages and the radical stages of the revolution. He does restore order. He's going to create reforms in banking. He's going to improve education throughout France. He very much supported the arts and sciences. And he even tried to bring back relations with the Catholic Church that were very strained during the Revolutionary era. The concept of feudalism is probably going to be ended under Napoleon. There's going to be much more of an opportunity for people to rise up. So the nobles lost a lot of power. But I hope you all remember, I don't have my pen so I can't underline it, but I hope you all remember that he will institute a series of laws, the Napoleonic Code, that really will be the focus of legal reform all throughout France. And many scholars even say that it still is the essence of French law today. And government positions, now you have to earn those jobs. It can't just be handed down because you are part of the wealthy. You have to earn them through merit, through your achievements. So during his time, Napoleon creates France as one of the dominant powers. However, he extended his influence far too wide. So Napoleon will involve France in numerous wars. He then crowns himself emperor in 1804, and you can see as the decline is now, his power got too far-reaching. It reminds me of the quote from Lord Acton, I think, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. In 1806, Napoleon creates the continental system, and what he's trying to do is destroy Britain. So he basically requires that all European ports do not accept any British goods. So now he's trying economically to counter the rise or the rivalry with Britain. But he just extends himself far too great. Those of you that were in 11th grade reviewing with us, remember that Napoleon's going to give up his territory in the United States with the Louisiana Purchase, largely because he was in desperate need of money. But he just engaged in too many wars. It really starts to fall apart when he's defeated in Russia. And then the final defeat will be at the Battle of Waterloo. And when you're evaluating Napoleon, because I did focus on what he achieved, please also remember there was tremendous censorship of the press under Napoleon. You know, he ruled like a dictator. There was the police state. The Minister of Police just ruthlessly crushed anybody who opposed what Napoleon was trying to accomplish. And obviously a lot of soldiers died because of all of the wars. The economy was ruined later on because of his expansion with war. So there is, two sides to what Napoleon achieved. Hopefully this helps you all for your essay review. Good luck studying, and I will see you in class.